Hi there, Tony.
Hi, how are you, Ray?
I'm very well, thank you. So great to see you today.
Yeah,
It's,
nice to see you again, too. It's been a
yeah.
while.
So, do I have your permission to record this Skype interview?
Yes,
Thank you. Do I have your consent to upload this interview onto a passport protected website viewable by my grad studies associates and other interviewees?
yes.
Fantastic. So let me explain my project. It's my final project in a master's degree at Northern Arizona University. My major is rhetorical writing and digital media. I chose to focus on an interdisciplinary study of the documentary Cowspiracy, its effectiveness as a model for behavior change toward environmental sustainability, as well as media literacy, and how it can be a tool for media literacy. So, are you ready for the questions?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Can you tell me about yourself?
Sure, my name is Tony McGregor. I'm 70 years old. I am a retired journalist. I live in Thailand with my Thai wife and my daughter, who is now 2 years and 4 months. I'm the leader of a Buddhist group here, an English-speaking Buddhist group here in Chiang Rai in northern Thailand. I guess that's it.
Well, there's so much more to you than that, but that is definitely a good introduction.
Okay.
Yeah. So you watched the film this week, right?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Okay, good. It's fresh in your mind. What did you think of the documentary Cowspiracy?
I was very impressed with it. It seemed to be very thorough. I was shocked, actually, at the information it presented, how big an impact the agricultural industry has on the environment. I hadn't realized before it was that important. It's not in general literature. It's not really pointed at as a huge environmental detractor, but the information they presented certainly indicated that it is. So that was one thing that impressed me about it. The qualifications of the interviewers, I think, interviewees, was very, very high and impressive. And I was generally shocked and impressed with the information. I suppose I was also shocked that it seemed that maybe some environmental organizations are keeping quiet about this problem for whatever reason. That was a bit of a shock too. I always looked at these environmental organizations as being very idealistic and truthful, but that isn't the case. So that was a revelation.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, you are making a documentary film as well, or have made. So, as a filmmaker, I'm curious about your ideas of their techniques,
Yeah,
insofar as how
I
they
thought
made it.
the techniques were very well done, actually. The angles, the depiction of the author of the film attempting to live an environmentally healthy, friendly life in the beginning of the documentary. That was pretty. I thought that was a good technique.
Mm.
And the interviews, I think, covered it well. The reaction of people who didn't know the answer or didn't want to talk about certain things, I think that was quite effective as well. So I think the techniques were very well done. The shot of the guy killing a duck and then the picture of the author riding in his car with a chicken beside him, I think that was very, very well done, very clever.
Yeah, I liked how it was kind of a window into his journey, and we can see his evolution as he asked questions and got more information, how he started to think differently and, change his position on the issue. And in the beginning, he was not vegan, but at the end, he decided he would try to do that. And as far as I understand, he and the other, it's a team of two, they are now vegan. And I liked it when they said, you can't be an environmentalist if you still eat meat. I think that's a really shocking statement for a lot of people. Well, before I watched the film, I had no idea about how connected the agriculture industry was to the environment either. So I'm really curious about how to deliver that message. Actually, in my last interview, the interviewee said it's a very difficult thing to tell people that every day their lifestyle is contributing to the degradation of the environment. It's not easy to just jump into a new behavior.
Right. No, it isn't. The solution seems to be very simple, really. All we have to do is move from animal-based diet to a plant-based diet. It's like dieting, all you have to do is eat less, but it's very hard to do. I think it would be very hard to wean people off eating meat. It's a simple solution, but not
yeah, I think we need to. Well, I'm interested in uncovering more information to help people. Something that I have learned since I started adopting a plant-based diet in the last few years is you don't have to eat less on a plant-based diet. You can eat unlimited amounts of whole foods and also have a lot of health benefits. But it's all about how information has been presented systematically over time to the masses of people. A lot of misinformation, in my opinion. So I'm really interested in the process of how to share this information, and I think it's very connected to our general media literacy and how much people, media literacy by definition is being able to see images, videos, information produced on the media and realize that there's someone behind that image creating it. There's someone who has an agenda, and we have to look behind that and see who is creating it, what they want from us. And something that I've studied in my grad studies is one of the best ways to achieve higher media literacy is to become a creator yourself. Whether it be to make, a small meme, or to actually make a video, or do some kind of work where you recognize that there's someone behind the camera, because you can get behind the camera too. Anyone can do it, and anyone can put information out there. So, I've really been passionate about what I've learned as far as media studies, and I think it's very directly connected to this issue.
And it would have been interesting, I think, if they had explored more the meat alternatives that are made out of plant-based food. Because I've tasted these plant-based meat products, and in my mind, anyway, it's very difficult to tell
Yeah.
the actual meat.
Well,
And as they get better at it, it'll probably be more and more difficult. That could be an area that should invest in.
yeah. Well, it is. Oh, sorry.
And then I guess a massive education program. It'd be interesting to see whether people who are devoted to eating meat could actually tell the difference between real meat and vegetable-based meat.
Well, there have been companies that are coming up. I think they're based in California as well, where they are making scientifically created meat that is very similar. It's even, bloody like hamburgers and stuff like that. So people who prefer to have that taste of meat, the products are getting out there. But one thing that is in the film, one of the interviewees is, he's a lawyer who studies patent law and stuff like that, he mentioned that the true cost of a hamburger is actually more about $15, not $3, like a fast food burger, if you take away the government subsidies that have been put in place. I think, but my perspective is that maybe some of the people who were interviewed, they truly didn't have the information. Maybe they did. But I think those government subsidies were put on in the early part of our century when people truly thought that we needed meat to be healthy. And now, this whole project is also connected to the health industry, but I chose to focus more on the environment to not overwhelm people with information. But, their next project they are creating now is a second documentary film called What the Health. And it's all about how the meat industry has, made our healthcare industry into a booming business by making people sick from eating meat and then profiting off of it. So that's a whole nother issue that...
Is this the same authors who are producing?
Yeah. And they are funding the film completely by individual donations from people through a website called Indiegogo. It's called a crowdsourcing website. They reached their funding in a day.
Wow.
And so the last time I checked, they were at 260% of their budget, and they're going to use the extra money to have the film translated into more and more languages. And they hope this time to have the film quality up to par to be released in theaters. Maybe that is why it wasn't released before, because they were doing it as a pet project, so they can do it on a grander scale as well.
Imagine the impact if the amount of subsidies that go into producing meat products went into producing vegetable products.
Yeah, or even to just not have those subsidies. So, yeah.
And charging people the real cost.
Yeah, if people were charged the real cost, they probably couldn't afford to be eating meat and dairy. But it has to come, it's a systematic change. I think that it starts with individuals becoming aware and then putting pressure on the government. I don't think the government is going to change by itself. But that's where my research has led me to at this point, is what is the most effective way to make change. And also this issue cuts into the importance of media literacy of all people and how important it is to provide media literacy in the education system all the way from elementary up to post-secondary education. I think it's really important because we're living in a time of information. Like they said in the film, it took thousands of years to reach a population of 1 billion, which we did in the 1800s. 100 more years, we were at 2 billion, and 100 years later now, we're at 7 billion people. I think part of it is, and this is why media literacy is so essential, is we're in a time of instant information, and it completely impacts every other aspect of our life. But it's creeped up on us in such a way that it's not part of our consciousness yet for most people. We don't recognize how every way that we live on a daily basis, as far as what we eat and how we consume products, directly impacts the whole planet. We still feel removed from it because the population exploded in the last 200 years.
Yeah. 7 billion people and that much more technologically developed lifestyle than previous generations, using all kinds of products.
Mm-hmm. And one positive thing is, in the research that I found, Americans are eating less meat in the last few years. It is happening. And I think it could, I'm not sure, I can't directly prove if it's because people are getting information more easily. I can only speculate in the confines of my project, but yeah, I think media literacy is the key to solving so many problems, and also directing the content of media literacy.
Yeah.
So having an agenda to promote health and environmental sustainability and not just profit, because right now profit is usually the last word. As we know from the people who speak out on this matter, in America are up against legal issues because of defamation. You know,
Right.
if you speak badly about someone's business and make them lose money, your own business can go under, you can even be sued. And I think we need to change our government and our legal system because that can only hurt the whole, population in the long run. But I'm talking too much.
I think you're right about the passivity of government. It's not generally that innovative, and it takes pressure outside of government to make them react.
Yeah. How do you think we can put that pressure on? Do you think petitions or public discourse, or what do you think?
I think public discourse, yeah, and education, really, like this movie that we just watched. I'm sure that most people who see the movie are going to change their attitude, be willing to be active in solving that problem.
I would hope so. It seems like younger people are more affected. And I wonder if that's because they have a higher media literacy in general. I'm not sure. But the current change of people going into more plant-based diets in America is the younger the generation, the more open they are to making those changes. So I'm curious about that.
Sounds hopeful because
Yeah.
they're the coming generation, right? They're
Yeah.
going to be dominating society in another 30 years or so.
Yeah.
That's a good step forward.
My last question to you was, how can this documentary best be used as an educational tool inside or outside the classroom? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think making it available online the way the producers have done is a good step forward.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you've got to convince teachers and education systems that it is worthwhile seeing and does contain some useful information. I guess once that happens, it will get into the education system. But I haven't actually read any criticism of has there been a lot of criticism, Raya?
Yes. There is, I'll send this to you after our interview. I've been sending all my interviewees a few things that usually come up, and this is one that typically does, is they have created a website to defend themselves about all their claims, and they have links to all of the research that they have uncovered. So people can basically, the movie is like a walking, living research paper. So anything that they say, they back up with sources, and you can go find the original source yourself from a really wide range of sites. And then after that, they have a link on that page where people have been refuting claims and saying, well, what about this? What about greenhouse gases in this way? And there's a continual dialogue going on their page. I've been doing searches on academic research bases, and there's really nothing happening about this documentary yet that I've uncovered. But there have been people blogging about it, and actually some of the blogs I've read have led me to really good scientific papers. So there are a lot of people who are looking into academic resources to try to explore this on their own. So far, and I know I'm biased because I am vegan, but I haven't seen anything that shows that their evidence isn't like solid. There is a question of how they frame certain statistics, like, for example, climate change, if it's also involving the transportation of cattle to and from, the farm to, after it's being developed and stuff like that, it does raise the environmental impact more because you have to account for moving this produce around,
Okay.
So I'm not a climate expert, but I'm trying to get the best picture I can from the information that's available out there. So, yeah, I just find that this documentary really makes people think and ask questions and want to find things out for themselves, and that's something that I really appreciate about it.
Did it change your behavior? Did you become a vegan because you saw the movie, or were you a vegan before?
I had gone into it for, I guess I was a couple years being vegan at that point for health reasons. Um, but it gave me a lot of optimism about the impact that I could have as an individual 3 times a day when I vote with my, you know, dollar towards what kind of food that I eat. But then it also made me look more into the issue, and I've become more of an ethical vegan. So I also have been refining my habits, for example, buying makeup, clothing, and looking at all of the things that I use my consumer power to attain, and how I can make choices that are more in line with keeping animal agriculture out of my consumption. But there are some like basic, even just plastic items that still use animal agriculture in their production. So no one can really at this point in the world be 100% completely without using those products. But it's through a process of refinement. And yeah, so I think that it just kind of strengthened my resolve and made me motivated to keep refining my habits. And it's a process over time. Yeah.
So you found that there were lots of animal products outside of food that you were using.
Well, animal products and also animal testing. Like, before I was vegan, I didn't really think about, okay, hair, makeup, stuff like that, clothing. Um, but there's a lot of animal testing in our everyday products that we use for personal care. And as far as clothing goes, I mean, avoiding leather, fur, wool, fabrics that use animals, I think it's just the same as using animals for food. Um, it's a tangent to the animal agriculture industry. I think people come in from an environmental point or a health point, and then they start to realize there's basically 3 main benefits: the environment, health, and being compassionate to other living beings. So people come in for different reasons.
You initially became a vegan for health reasons, right?
Health and compassion, but I think it was the health that really pushed me in, and I started to see that it really can affect your health in a positive way. And then when I saw this documentary, yeah, I think I was fascinated about it from a person's perspective of someone who's trying to avoid the, abusing of animals and creating things that we need, but also as an environmentalist, because I felt very much similar to him that I was trying to reduce my environmental impact. You know, I don't have a car, and I would recycle everything, and I would think, oh, I better not waste water and turn off the lights. And I had the same thought, like, even if everyone does this, is it actually going to make a difference? A sense of futility was absolved by the movie, making me realize that our everyday habits absolutely are the biggest contributor to what's happening in the environment. So I felt really good that I could make a difference. Yeah.
It seems from the movie that it is the richer countries like North America, which are the worst culprits.
Well, that's something else I found in my research. And, at one point, one of the interviewees says something: if China decides to consume as much meat and dairy as Americans do, we don't have enough world. And it's absolutely true. It's impossible. And unfortunately, as you know, having lived in Asia for a long time like me, I think Thailand is easier to get vegan and vegetarian food, but I know you used to live in Korea, and most restaurants are all about the meat these days because Asia is, especially Northeast Asia, is evolving like their economics are becoming really powerful. And as people get richer, they feel like eating meat is a way of showing their affluence. So it's a concern. I think if the directors of this movie or people who are interested in this cause really want to make an impact, they're going to have to start looking at it at a global scale.
Right.
One of the things in the research that I found, well, in the Chatham House studies also, is it is a disadvantage that China has such a huge population, and they are demanding more like animal agriculture products, and that is a danger. But also they can be influenced more easily because coming from a mindset of not valuing personal choice as much as Americans do, if their government starts telling them, okay, it's time to cut back on your meat consumption, they actually do acquiesce to that more easily than North Americans do. So
Right.
it's a very complicated and interesting issue that I'm just starting to get a picture of right now.
Yep. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, Tony, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up for today?
Not really. I guess the other thing that if I would criticize if all of the criticism is I would have liked to have seen more information on gardening, on how to produce local food. There was some information on how you can produce food for a year in an incredibly small area. Would have liked to have seen more on that, as well as the vegetable-based food products that
Yeah, that's a great point. Recently, France has made it, they're instilling a law that all rooftops will have to have gardens in their urban centers. I thought that is really brilliant.
pretty impressive. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I hope to include in my project website a few links at least to give people who are interested in being more attuned to plant-based lifestyle, like some pointers and tips. Myself, I haven't started my own garden, but that is something that I want to do in the future.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'm in the same situation.
Well, I'm sure you will.
Yes, I plan to. Yeah, I will be having a little more free time.
Something that I just realized that you didn't mention when I asked you question number 3, how Cowspiracy influenced your attitudes. Do you think it can or will influence your eating behavior? I think you were vegetarian for a while before the film, right?
Yeah, I have been vegetarian for years, except in Thailand. When I came here about 7 years ago, I started to eat fish. Then I'm still eating fish, but I think that this movie will wean me away from eating fish and stop back to vegetables.
Yeah.
I also eat eggs, and I didn't realize that egg production has something to do with milk either. So I hardly drink any milk now, but I do eat eggs. I started being a vegetarian because I became a Buddhist, and I just didn't want to kill things. You don't have to kill an animal to have an egg. So I ate eggs and drank milk.
Mm,
But now it made me reconsider that.
yeah.
And it must be with the Reagan doctor pointed out the problems. I hardly drink it at all now. It's easy.
That's great. It's your voice is cutting out a little bit.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there. Yeah, that's better. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
So
um, I
everything, right?
I think
Did we cover everything?
I think we did, and we're coming up to the 30-minute mark, so I'd like to tuck it in for now.
Okay.
So thank you so very much for your participation. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch the film and meet with me. I know you have family visiting and you're busy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ray, for doing it. And
Yeah.
good luck with the project. I think it's really worthwhile. It's good that you picked something that is useful and have such a big positive impact.
Yeah, I hope so. I'll see how this goes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk to you soon, Tony. Take care.
Okay. All right, Ray. Take care of yourself then.
Thank
and,
you.
we'll see you soon. Thanks for
Absolutely.
calling. I enjoyed that call.
Yeah.